I am Michael Donahue, and I'm sitting here today with.
Darth Ramious. You can
Okay,
find
we'll go with
me.
that.
Yeah. I mean, that's my handle on so many platforms.
But spell it though, because it doesn't make sense when you look at it.
I think it, all right. So it's,
I'm busting your balls makes total sense to me.
yeah, at DARTHRAM as in Mike, IOUS. You can find me on Twitter. Usually, let me just go through all my apps and see what I have.
I only fuck with Twitter, so don't feel bad.
Discord, Reddit, Vero was that, man, that was a
What the fuck
wild.
is Vero?
Exactly. That was something they had for a hot minute. That's about it, really. I don't gram instantly, so
There
sorry.
it is. All good, man. Well, we got together today to talk about Warrior, which we definitely did, but being the nerds we are, it goes all over the place. So it
Yes.
was a fun conversation, man. So
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously, you know me. I could talk movies all day, every day.
most definitely. See, the thing is, like with me and drama, it's like the reactions I have to drama are like what normal people have to horror. Like I just can't deal with real people dealing with real shit. Like it just, it's not for me. So like the first
Mm-hmm.
hour of this movie was really difficult, but
Uh,
it's I mean, like I'm into the all the actors and like pretty, like all the actors. I had no
yeah,
idea that I would recognize everybody. I didn't know Frank Grillo was in this movie, looking all like thin in comparison to how he would like get cut later.
yeah. Well, I first learned about it from a column in Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
Because sometimes they'll discuss, sports movies if they come out and if they do, how good they are. But they were just raving about Warrior. And I mean, the guy who wrote the column said it's the best sports movie since Rocky.
Yeah, that's it.
I
That's on all the covers and shit. Yeah, the Blu-rays and the
I
DVDs and stuff. Yeah.
yeah yeah I read about it in Sports Illustrated, and then a little later on, I finally had a chance to watch the movie, and I took it and sat down and watched it, and I loved it. And I had to get it. I had to own it after that.
Oh, most definitely, man. So, like, was there anything in particular that's about it that spoke to? Like, did you connect in some way to a specific character, or was it just like the movie as a whole, or what's up?
It's just a beautiful story. I guess the thing that related to me was the theme of like a family torn apart, and then ultimately, coming together in the end.
Got you. So, yeah,
A family conflicted, a family at odds, and then in the end, there's some resolution to it.
I mean, it was one of those like even if you didn't know going in where it was heading towards, it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly what the end of this movie is gonna be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, say what you will about the man nowadays, but Joe Rogan does know a thing or two about UFC. And he said like his only real problem with the movie was they never let you fight twice in a day. But he said like all the rest of it was like really like technical and true.
Um, well, I mean, one, it wasn't a UFC event,
Well,
depending
yeah,
on the
but
movie.
just I mean, I just meant like MMA in general.
Well, originally it was the very first UFC event was an 8-man tournament. So
Set over the course of a single
the
day.
two finalists had to fight 3 times that night.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's not unprecedented.
Right on, man. Yeah, I mean, like way, way back when UFC first started, I saw a few of them with my
They
buddies.
actually put that on YouTube, the very first UFC event, a couple of years back. I don't know if it's still up or not, but
Oh, right on.
you could check it out. I mean, that's literally when they were trying to essentially depict the Kumite in real life. I mean, they had a street fighter, they had a jujitsu master, they had a sumo wrestler, they had a boxer, they had a taekwondo fighter, they had they had like 8 fighters from 8 different disciplines. And essentially, I mean, again, going back to Sports Illustrated, there was a great retrospective article about that night, that event, and essentially it was set up just to be almost like an advertisement for jujitsu. Like they were trying to show jujitsu was like the best fighting style, and learn jujitsu because everything else like can't hold up. And, uh, Ken Shamrock himself still to this day has qualms about how the tournament was organized because he had a very quick turnaround between some of his between the first 2 rounds leading up to the finals, because he was a finalist against it was one of the Gracies. I want to say Horace Gracie or Royce Gracie, but I think it was Horace Gracie. But yeah, no, and they like I said, him and Gracie had to fight, 3 times that night ultimately before Gracie came out the victor and won.
That seems incredibly unhealthy, even more so than just the base of the act.
Oh, guys, honestly, especially after the fact, we're talking about like they had no idea what they were really getting into. Like nobody did, aside from probably Gracie. Like it's they told him like it's going to be a tournament, one night only, $50,000 grand prize, that sort of thing. And we're trying to get fighters from all different disciplines. But like the guy who was like in sumo, sumo is an incredibly hard discipline. Like I was just talking with a couple of the guys about it the other night. Like it looks brief, sudden, and of course the guys have massive bodies, so everybody assumes lethargy.
Yeah, but that's not the case at all.
Yeah, John Tenta, aka Earthquake, professional wrestler from the late '80s and early '90s. He played college and I think briefly pro football. Then he went to Japan and learned and became a sumo wrestler. And then while in Japan, he was scouted to become a pro wrestler. And between the football, the sumo, and the pro wrestling, he said by far the sumo was the hardest thing he ever had to do.
Yeah, that tracks based on some of the stuff I've seen. I've never gone down like a deep YouTube hole or anything, but I've seen some stuff where it was like, oh, that's so violent.
Absolutely. I mean, you see these guys walking up, to the circle, the ring, whatever you want to call it, and they're, their joints are just taped the fuck up because, they've been through it and they're going to go through it again, kind of thing. So, but even still, I mean, that's a close range fighting style. And the sumo wrestler, who's now an actor, believe it or not, he was out of his element. He had no idea what he was getting into, so he goes in against a striker. I believe a French Canadian guy, and literally it's like a one-hit match because like the guy throws one kick and literally knocks the sumo wrestler's teeth into the front row.
Oh fuck, that's rude.
And like maybe a couple other strikes, and then his corner just throws in the towel and said, "Okay, that's it, he's done."
Yeah.
The boxer watches that, in the locker room. He realizes, Jesus Christ, I'm going in literally with pads on my hands, and these guys, are bare knuckled. So when he went out for his fight, he literally had his trainers cut one of the gloves off. So he had one gloved hand and one bare hand. And his strategy at that point, and he's just, making it up on the fly now, was to try to lure in his opponent with, the padded jabs.
Okay.
And if he could get close enough to his opponent, then he was going to throw a bare knuckle hook and try to, score a knockout that way. And that didn't work. He was out in the first round as well. But yeah, a lot of these guys went in had no idea what to expect. Just like, yeah.
Damn, man.
So,
I had no idea.
But there is, respect to Joe Rogan, but there is a precedent to, MMA fighters having to go more than, one fight a night.
Oh, well then, there it is.
Yeah.
But, oh man. Shit. I mean, like the MMA of it all was really, I just appreciated because it was like, I mean, I knew it was coming, but I didn't know how much actual fight there would be. And so, like I said, the first half is really like all interpersonal, soul crushing drama. And when it was like halfway through, I'm like, wait, we're halfway through. We're already getting to fights. What's this? And I don't know. And then just the whole Tom Hardy of it all, like I've never seen a Tom Hardy performance that isn't captivating. And I mean, this is the one that like I mean, the rumor is he only took the part so that he would basically be paid to get in shape for Bane, but I think there was a little more to it than that.
The accent, I mean, everybody, the whole family, they have an accent, but they're supposed to be from Pennsylvania, and they definitely seem to lean more toward like a Bostonian accent.
It must be the easier one for the English guys to do.
Yeah,
and Edgerton's
between Edgerton and Hardy, it might have been just easier for them. And I mean, the family could be a transplant. I mean, I'm certain there's at least one or people living not just in Pennsylvania but all over who's got that kind of accent, just because that's where the family came from. And they didn't feel compelled to have to explain it either. I mean, because they shouldn't have had to. it would have taken you out of the story. You saw the director's commentary, right?
I did.
Because they reflect on the fact that at times in the movie, they reference incidences, specifically that Nick Nolte did, that alienated him from his family.
Yeah.
Don't go into detail as to what exactly happened.
I kind of appreciated that, like, because it was very real the way that it was,
Yeah,
presented.
because you wouldn't ever, like, if you have a bad incident, especially with family, you wouldn't ever just sit down and reflect detail by detail, beat by beat, play by play, what happened. Again, it would have just taken you out of the context of the movie.
And it was already 2:20. We don't need more story.
Yeah, exactly.
Although that being said, it didn't really feel 2:20, so good on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I think the biggest thing I took away from it was like, oh, Nick Nolte can smile. I had no idea. I really like. I'm not even kidding. Like I think 2 or 3 times I took a note. I was just like, I'm really, dude, this is weird seeing him like so not just yelling at Eddie Murphy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he got an Academy Award nomination for that movie.
Oh, was that one? Okay, yeah, that tracks though.
Maybe
that
because of his smiling.
I don't know, man. That relapse scene is pretty.
Yes.
Yeah, that was hard. That was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of felt that it was gonna happen at some point, and I don't know, man. That was, but even just the way that like Hardy played that, like, he might be like a son of a bitch, as it were, but he still loves the man,
Well, and I think he felt responsible too.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the way like Nolte just like looked at him like sadly, like, I didn't want this to happen, but God damn it, you pushed me to it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely, because I mean that was my one note from the slot machine scene was fucking harsh, Bane.
Yeah.
Is there any like standout in particular to you? Like if you like you think the best performance in the film is out of whom?
Definitely Hardy. I mean,
I would agree.
He's just got a lifetime of pain that he's trying to work through, and ultimately he has to submit. It's like he's trying to literally fight his way out of the all the pain of his life, and really what he has to do is just relent to it.
Yeah, except that's the Well, it was like that was the thing they said that a couple times in the commentary is like, Edgerton needed to win, and Hardy needed to lose to win.
Yeah.
And it totally makes sense, in that case. And I don't know. Here's hoping, like, in headcanon, as it were, like Edgerton's like, oh yeah, you're here's a little bit of money for your buddy's family, So and the reveal of that, like, when that dude got all, he's like, give me the video, the tape. I was like, Jesus Christ, what happened? What's this tape?
Yeah.
And the reveal on that was just like, oh, like, I mean, I understand why you're doing this, but he's gonna get so popped because he's so clearly AWOL. Oh, look, he's AWOL.
Yeah. Another thing too, when I was watching that movie was, they keep hinting at this, Russian beast of a fighter named Koba.
Yeah.
And they show, brief, archival footage in the fake news reports.
Right.
And finally shows up, to compete in the tournament. But the whole movie, every time he pops up, I'm like, God, he looks familiar. God, he looks familiar. And I wasn't watching TNA wrestling. I didn't really have access to TNA wrestling. So it had been years since I seen him, and he had changed his appearance. His face thinned out a little bit from his WWE days. But I don't think it was the fight with Joel Edgerton. I think it was the preliminary. I think it was the first round of the tournament when I saw him fighting. I'm like, oh God, that's Kurt Angle. No, know what? You know what? It was the Joel Edgerton fight, because when he gets him in that ankle lock.
Okay. He looked familiar, but I was just like,
when
and they said Kurt Angle on the commentary, but I just didn't connect the two because he looks, as you said, so different.
Yeah, it was when Joel Edgerton had him in the leg brace and his face is grimacing. That grimace faces would finally click because I'd seen it so many times in his wrestling matches. So that's when I realized, oh shit, that's Kurt Angle.
Right. Huh?
Because he did look slightly different from his WWE days, and he never spoke. Of course, I mean they try to build up this big mysterious just machine of a fighter that was supposed to be like this indomitable contender. So
Finally coming over to the States.
and what was great too is that you kind of almost doubted that it was going to come down to the two brothers in the end. Like you almost thought,
I did actually for a hot second. I thought it was going to be.
Want to see Tom Hardy take on that Koba character, just to see how the two best fighters would have locked horns.
Yeah.
So kudos, to how the director / writer set that up, because, I mean, of course, you're still satisfied at the end of the movie, but there's this tinge of disappointment that you didn't get to see Hardy and Angle.
Yeah, definitely.
Lock up.
That would have been this is we need Warrior 2. Like, come on, we can make it happen.
I wouldn't change the ending at all. I'm just saying if you wanted to get to that point where Angle and Hardy lock up, maybe Koba injures the older brother. I wouldn't say cripple him, but he definitely like maims him in some way that Hardy suddenly, or Tommy, I should say, just looks at his, he like feels sympathy for his brother because it's like he didn't want to see him get hurt like that. And then he wants to fight for like his brother's revenge or something, in the final. That could have, it could have worked like that too, and you still get the family together at the end. But obviously, no. Obviously, the ending they had was best. I wouldn't take that. I'm just saying.
I really want to
try to get Angle and Hardy in the cage against each other. That would be a way you could go about doing it.
I don't know, man. If they had even had somebody like try to, grab him and be like, "Come on, like we know he's your brother, but raise your hands, be victorious." Like, no, that absolutely ended the way it needed to end. It's like, fuck all your bullshit. Like, I need to make sure my brother is okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other performances from the leads that really stand out to you in any of their other films that you're a big fan of that maybe you feel people don't really like talk about?
Oh, jeez. So, I wish Heather Morrison got more work.
Right.
Incredible actress. But this and House is pretty much all anybody can think of her from. And I really,
that's why I know her face. I didn't know why I knew her face.
Yeah. And you could see that they were trying to give her more depth than just the concerned housewife thing. But, there's only so much you can do before you're like really stretching. And it's unfortunate, that's unfortunate,
but even given sort like they definitely give her more than your typical paper thin, just lady at home, which I really appreciated. And B, to me, like no joke, like if like just thinking about the movie, one of the scenes I'm going to think about is her just looking at the phone. Like, you remember that? Yeah. Like that was like, I don't know, man. That was very real.
I just right now, I'm drawing a blank. This is the only detail of the movie I'm drawing a blank from. But do they mention that she was working or not? I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, you don't know what she does for work, or even if she was going to a work function. But there is a point where she has to go to a function.
All right.
Yeah.
Obviously, their whole the plot of that family is just they're struggling to make ends meet after the dad gets suspended from his teaching job. So,
which I was sitting there, I was like, as long as he's not negligent in the job, like what's the problem here? So I don't know.
He's fighting adjacent to a strip club.
Well, yeah.
So that's one problem already. Especially if it's a conservative community. I don't know what, doesn't need to know if the community is conservative or not, but A, he's fighting adjacent to a strip club, and then B, guy shows up to work with a bunch of lacerations all over his face. I mean,
Yeah.
it's concerning. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get, why a school would make such a decision.
For sure, for sure. It was like I remember it was a big deal. We had a teacher in high school who was really into rugby, like like hardcore into like some like next level rugby. Like he would come in looking like Edgerton at times.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm looking forward to him in the Obi-Wan show. They have confirmed he will be back as Owen Lars.
Oh, I did hear about this. Isn't the lady's coming back too? Yeah.
Yes. For the Obi-Wan show, and I like to see them explore. I mean, it's clear Lars and Obi-Wan have a history and had a falling out, even if it was a brief.
And I'm looking forward because like not only is he a brilliant actor, but like I felt he was like for like the 5 seconds that he played the part in what was it, episode 2. Anyway, we wait no. When did you see him?
He first appeared in episode 2, and
it
then
was
you
episode
see him
2
briefly at the end of episode 3. But there's no dialogue. He just gets handed the kid, and then he looks out over the sunset with Baru.
But it's like he looks like the dude. You know what I mean? Like you can see
it was
him
great
becoming
casting.
that guy. Like yeah.
But I remember too. I think he was being considered for a role in Rogue One.
Really? Okay. I love.
And then he had to tell the director or the casting director, like, I already had a role in Star Wars. I can't. Like,
I don't think they're gonna be cool with this. If you can change their mind, I'll take it.
No, I don't even think. I think he just had to tell him, look, I already got a role in Star Wars, and it's a pretty significant. I mean, it's a minor role, but it's a significant character. So they're not gonna buy me showing up as somebody else. Unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, actually, so like with Tom Hardy, man, like I'd say two of my favorites with his.
It's interesting you asked me that if there's any movies with this cast, I would recommend to people like, that possibly haven't seen a great performance of theirs. But this is the movie I recommend to people.
Well, no, that makes total sense.
If you like Tom Hardy, you got to watch Warrior. Or if you like Joel Edgerton, you got to watch Warrior. Like Nolte, you got to watch. This is the movie I do that for. So it's hard for me when you put me on the spot. Like, what movie that people might not know about would you recommend to see this cast in? And it's like, well, this. It's like this is the movie.
I totally get that. One of the things I find so interesting about Hardy is like it doesn't matter how big or tiny the role is, he's always interesting in the part. Like, did you ever see Rock and Rolla?
Briefly, but I don't recall Hardy.
Yeah, and nobody does because it's such a different Hardy. He plays the guy that everybody knows is gay, but doesn't want to say is gay.
Oh,
yeah, and but it's so interesting to see him take because he's still part of the gang, like he's still a tough. But like at one point they use him to seduce like a dude they know would be into that. And he just goes total, like, just like total soft and flirty. It's like, it's so weird and awesome. Plus, the movie's really rad. It's got Toby Kebbell in the lead. I think it was the first time I ever saw Toby Kebbell.
I think it was only I think it was less than 3 years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, when I was suddenly reminded he was the guy, he was the villain in Star Trek Nemesis.
He was. Yes.
That blew me away because obviously I try to forget that movie. But
yeah, that was the movie that made me literally throw a cup of ice at the movie screen afterwards.
Here's the thing. It's like it's so blatantly obvious they were trying to make that movie the next generation equivalent of Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
But you couldn't do that because you're trying to conjure up a new villain out of the blue, but make him resentful of Picard. And it's like you can't do that. You need to have a villain with an established history, like the way Khan had with Kirk.
Yeah.
And what's more frustrating is they had a villain in Next Gen who legitimately has beef with Picard and could have came back with a vengeance like Khan did. And that was the Moriarty fucking program from the holodeck.
I vaguely recall this. Okay.
So Data had a Sherlock Holmes program in the holodeck.
Yeah.
But Moriarty became self-aware because
that's right. Okay.
And actually tricked the crew into thinking he had hijacked the whole ship, when in actuality he had manipulated them into the holodeck and kept moving the holodeck to think that they were traveling around the ship.
Okay.
And then ultimately Picard and Moriarty reached a détente where Picard said, I'll try to figure out a way to get you out of the holodeck and basically expand your horizons, literally, like try to find a way to get a hologram out of the holodeck and out, into more of the universe.
Right.
But when they shut the program down, Picard assumes with the program shut down, then the Moriarty program, basically goes to sleep or ceases, function. And they shelved it. And then in another episode down the line, Moriarty again comes back because he was aware the whole time. It's like, hey, you forgot about me. You thought you were just going to put me away and forget about me. It's like, no. So there's actually 2 episodes with Moriarty in Next Gen, where ultimately Picard is able to trick Moriarty into thinking he does go away on one of the shuttlecrafts to find a place to settle in, but in actuality, he's in like a little holocube.
Right.
Just flying around for eternity.
That actually is kind of perfect. That's
where the Moriarty storyline finished off in Next Gen. Now, you ready for this? Because this is how I would have made the movie if you wanted a Wrath of Khan for Next Gen. Moriarty gains a corporeal form, a physical form.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Because who would know this was going on? Who would want to test Picard and give Moriarty a corporal form? More importantly, who has the ability to do that?
Q.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Isn't that a big deal, right? Like whatever the new Star Trek thing is, like Q's going to be hardcore involved.
New Star Trek things. There's Discovery, which I would say is better than Enterprise. That's about all I could say for it. I haven't heard great things about it. I haven't heard, terrible things about it.
A buddy of mine is like Star Trek is life and pretty much exclusively Star Trek. Like Star Trek and Babylon 5 are like the only things he cares about. And he loves Discovery. He's got strong feelings about a lot of Star Trek, but he loves Discovery.
Okay. I need you to recommend him a show. I believe it's on Tubi, Tuby.
Yeah.
Or TUBI, sorry.
Right, I got you.
It's called Lex with 2 X's.
Oh, I know Lex. Yeah. I've got the first season and I've seen bits and pieces. Yeah.
Love that fucking show.
Fucking Dieter Laser for the win.
Yeah. But yeah, so they got Discovery. That's okay. Then they're about to do a spinoff from Discovery about Pike, the captain before Kirk.
Right.
And is
Pike on that show?
He appeared on the show, and producers and I guess the network, Paramount, were so pleased with how that went. The producers were like, oh, let's make a show with just Pike. And so they're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, they're not going to get Peter David involved, who was like if you ever read the novels, Peter David basically made a great character out of Pike. One guy
I'm not gonna lie, who read the book. I've read a bunch of the novels, but I read a couple of the DS9 ones way back.
There was one book Peter David wrote that actually crossed over the Kirk crew with the Pike crew. And but as one guy was reading it, he's like, Pike kind of reads like Zap Brannigan. And because here's how the story starts. The story starts following Pike's crew, not Kirk's crew, right? And there's a rift, in space time, and they end up going through it, and that's how they end up meeting Kirk's crew. But what's funny is that, the science officer, he's like, sir, there's some kind of temporal anomaly, but we don't know what it is. And Pike's first response is, then we have to go in. That's a total Zap Brannigan movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't stop. Yeah. Don't do now. Let's just go fucking right in there head first.
Oh man.
But Peter David was the guy who really fleshed out Pike's character and made him kind of like a punny smartass, which is what you saw in the Abrams movie as well.
Yeah.
But that's all. So
I like the Abrams
when they
movies.
announced.
They're not like amazing, but they're good. They're fun.
When they announced they're going to do a full-on show with Pike's crew as depicted in Discovery, because of course, if you know your Star Trek lore, that was the original pilot. Was Pike was going to be the captain, and then he has declined. And they said, "Well, refilm with somebody else," and that's how we got Kirk in the original series. But Now they're going to do a Pike spinoff, and I'm like, oh man, I hope they get Peter David involved because that guy, basically, I wouldn't say created Pike, but made Pike. But sadly, they're not going to do that. I'm not going to resent the series for it. I hope they get it. I hope they do it well. But I think it would be great if they did get Peter David on board with that.
Definitely, man.
You have the Discovery, you have that spinoff with Pike's crew, and then you have Picard. And I saw that's the first season because that's all that's been released so far. Pretty good, pretty engaging. I know it didn't live up to some people's expectations. I don't know what they wanted, but I thought it was very good. But Lower Decks is the one I really like, and a lot of like hardcore lifelong trekkers really resent that show because it's silly, to put it bluntly.
Picard is silly.
No. Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. Oh yeah. Absolutely. That's the point of it.
Yeah.
I've heard it's actually like, but as stupid and funny as it is, it's also very Star Trek. Like it doesn't shy away from Star Trek.
And they do a lot of deep cut references, especially in like background details. So House of Usher or Fall of the House of Usher.
Fall of the House of Usher. I know of it. I have not seen it. Yeah.
With Vincent Price, based off an Edgar Allan Poe short story, but as soon as you see the art direction and the cinematography, you're like, this was fucking Tim Burton's milk.
Okay.
Like this is Tim Burton's breast milk. Okay. This is what he grew watching, and this is what influenced all his movies. Because like the pastels, the set design, and I mean, there's one visual at the end of the movie where this girl's like hands are bloody because she was literally trying to claw out of a sarcophagus.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got blood running down her hands, and she's just like got the hands covering her face, and then she pulls her hands down to reveal like her face, like her, her just because she's lost in madness now at this point. So she's got these bloodied hands coming, down her face, and then she just lets out a shriek as the lightning strikes. And between like her pale skin, her dark hair, the blood on her hands, and the lightning strike, it's an incredible visual. And I mean, it's not just a visual feast as well. I mean, it's a good movie nonetheless.
So I get you. Yeah. That's like no fucking joke. House on Haunted Hill, the OG, the one from the 50s, is actually a good flick. Like, yes. Well constructed, has a couple of good fuck yous in it, manages to maybe if you're not someone who watches as many movies as we do, the twist you might be like, hey, what? But it's good times. It's good times.
And I mean, Freaks wasn't necessarily a horror movie, but it terrified people.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like you watch it today, it is absolutely a really sad tale of how people with other abilities are treated. And but back then it was the scariest horror film ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the third episode of our classic horror podcast is Freaks. I just watched it again recently with a buddy of mine who had never seen it. You can throw that movie on any day of the week, and I'll just sit there.
That reminds me, I always get Freaks, yes, but I was just thinking of another one. It was directed by Alex Winter of Bill and Ted fame, and I want to say
Freaked. I love this movie.
Freaked with a D, yes. Freaked, yes, that was the one with
the crazy ass practical effects and Keanu Reeves as fucking dog boy. Yeah. Have you seen that? You have seen that, or you just know about it?
No, I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah. There was a couple years back they did a screening of it at the Egyptian, and a bunch of the primaries showed up. I just wish they'd figure out the rights on that so we could get a good clean upgrade, because was it on DVD? I don't even know if they did a DVD.
It was on DVD. It was on DVD. Okay. I don't think it ever got a Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
I could be mistaken.
I'm pretty sure there's no Blu-ray yet, but if there is, I need to get it.
Yeah.
Oh man. Got some decent warrior talk in there. And I am serious too, because I really I apologize it took me so long. It was just I don't think it could have affected me for a lot of different reasons in the same fashion if I'd watched it when you first lent it to me.
I can appreciate that. Yeah. I know a lot of people who it's the same reaction where like you said, like they can't watch horror movie, it makes them cringe, or they can't watch, serious drama, especially family drama, it makes them cringe
Yeah.
because it just hits too close to home. It hits a raw nerve.
Yeah.
The one thing
Yeah.
that surprises me is I've encountered a lot of people in my life, usually love interests of all things, who can't watch awkward comedy
I get
like
that. I
Ben
get that.
Stiller or The Office
Yeah.
or that kind of shit, because it just, for some reason, when they see an awkward situation, it reminds them of shit they've been through and they just can't deal.
No, I get that, dude. Have you seen Death at a Funeral? Either version, both versions?
Uh, the first one, yes. The second one, unfortunately.
Okay. I actually really like both of them. I'm not mad at people who don't, but I love I love the original, and the American one is so just it has maybe the best cringe moment of comedy I personally have ever witnessed. Because they replay who's okay. So you said you've seen the British one, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the I forget which actor it is, but the dude who winds up taking like a bunch of fucking Valium instead of
Alan
aspirin.
Tudyk.
It is Tudyk. Okay.
In
So
the British version, it's Alan Tudyk, and in the American version, it was James Marsden.
and there's so when he goes full bore, and you know the twist, like the bend on it, right? Like it's a black family and he's the only white guy in the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So when he's full tripping balls, he embraces the matriarch and starts singing Amazing Grace. Dude, when I tell you I couldn't sink low enough into my seat, I tried to become a single cell organism while this scene took place. It was so uncomfortable. Remind me, like I've got it in one of my fucking media books.
And now he's Sonic the Hedgehog's best friend.
Right? Which was a movie that was so much better than it had any right to be. Like, yeah. I'm so glad they nailed that.
I'm glad they redesigned Sonic, because
yes, we're not going to
go there.
The movie
would not have been as good with fucking cringe Sonic. That's for sure.
Not even close. But yeah, I mean, I'm like that was a case where like they listened to the criticism, they spent the money, and it paid the fuck off.
Yeah.
So, oh man, that just hit Netflix. I might have to watch it again soon.
There's a great meme too where there's like a button and it says, if you hit this button, you'll get $150,000. But the person you hate most in the world will also get $150,000.
Yeah, I know.
And then it cuts to a picture of Dr. Robotnik, Jim Carrey, like excitedly trying to press the button, and it says me realizing I'll get $300,000.
Right. Oh man, good times. And even like the Jim Carrey of it, like people got really nervous, but I felt that like they genuinely like decided to like make the character whatever up top, but totally go full Robotnik in the best possible way by the end of it.
Really, you just need a tech genius with an outrageous mustache and a bald head, and by the end of the film, they got that. He even had the red nose.
Exactly.
They didn't have to do that, but they did it. And other than that, I mean, he's a pretty one-dimensional, villain, because he's a video game villain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a brilliant coup to get Jim Carrey and just let him go.
Yeah. We'll have to do it again soon. We'll figure out a movie maybe like neither of us have seen, and then we'll each recommend one.
That would be a challenge. Probably have to go to 1930s Turkish rip-off sci-fi serials or something.
Wait,
though?
Dude. I just realized
we have to track down the Turkish Star Wars ripoff and watch that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I do. A couple of years ago, a buddy of mine gave me, I think it's Turkish Rambo for like I have it. It's fucking amazing.
Oh, and then on top of that, have you ever seen the Santo films?
Say that again.
The Santo films, the Mexican luchador.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I have not seen them.
I have a box set.
I would say you've got at least 4 of them, right? Yeah.
Yes, I definitely recommend. I mean, they're all great, but I would recommend Santo y Blue Demon contra Dracula y el Hombre Lobo, which in English translates to Santo and Blue Demon versus Dracula and the Wolfman. who are inexplicably buried together in a cave in Mexico.
Oh yeah, that tracks. Yeah.
Like you don't even know why are they in Mexico? How did they end up in Mexico? Why are they buried together? It doesn't make any sense. It's
My God,
great fun.
that's intense. Right on.
This weekend I might procure a copy of the Japanese horror film House,
I have that. I
or
have
some
the
people say House.
well, the yeah, because the original title is House of. But yeah. I've got the Criterion version of that, which
Oh,
if
dude.
which I honestly, if you just want the movie and you're gonna pay a couple bucks, go for it. But just wait for the next Criterion sale. Buy that disc. You will not regret it. It is fucking incredible.
No, because they had it on Hulu, the Criterion, because it included on Hulu. They had the movie and the making of documentary that's on the Criterion
Okay.
DVD, and that is a fascinating,
Yeah,
fascinating story, just as enthralling as the movie itself.
I would always like the way I would sell that movie, which I would do pretty regularly. I worked in an area where people didn't mind dropping $40 on some shit if it sounded cool, and I would be like, just it's a haunted house bedtime story for kids directed by a Japanese Andy Warhol.
Okay, here's how I recommend it to people. It's Evil Dead 2 before Evil Dead 2
Okay.
was Evil Dead 2. And I'm not, and some people misunderstand that and they're thinking like, oh, Evil Dead 2 ripped this off. It's like, that's not what I'm saying. Because if you know the story of the movie, there's no possible way Evil Dead 2 could have ripped it off.
Yeah.
Because the studio tried to hide it from foreign nations for decades.
Really?
Like,
Okay.
they were ashamed it even got released domestically. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fun, trippy, just wild ride through horror.
That cat, that piano, that chick's bouncing head.
Akin to Evil Dead 2, but make no mistake, I'm not accusing Evil Dead 2 of ripping off because it couldn't have happened. There's no way.
Yeah.
Somehow this movie came out before Evil Dead 2, and yet seems to match, the style exactly.
Well, I think we just figured out our next episode. We got a double feature House and Evil Dead 2 and talk about the similarities and shit. Because to be honest with you, it's been forever since I've seen Evil Dead 2. And
okay,
like the Army of Darkness is like, the looking back on it favorite just because like it was my first and I saw it so many fucking times. But I like Evil Dead 2 to me is the peak of that franchise. Well,
yeah,
actually, I would say Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 1 is the peak of the franchise, but yeah, Evil Dead 2 is the peak of the franchise.
I mean, I liked Ash vs. Evil Dead, but I
Season 1 was the first time I sat down and watched the whole fucking season of television in one go without intending to. Like, and same with Michelle, who's not even an Evil Dead fan, and she fucking loved
it. Yeah. What was the first TV show I did that with? I want to say Glow, but I could be mistaken.
Okay, fair.
So I love that. I mean, I recommend it. I still recommend it to people, but I tell them, you know what, just stick with the first season because you're gonna get frustrated.
2 was okay, and I didn't hear much about 3.
3 was okay too, but it sets up a 4th season, which was supposed to be the final season, and then because of COVID, Netflix just pulled the plug and said, you know what, nope, that's it.
Oh, I did hear this.
Not gonna get any resolution. And that's why I tell people, look, just watch the first season. It ends on a good note. If you carry on to the second and third seasons, you're going to start, a narrative that isn't going to have a payoff.
Okay. Yeah. That was my, like, did you ever see Carnival?
No, but I heard
dude, like the first season just so spot on, amazing. Like I got a thing for the American 1920s and it's just gorgeous. And I learned that it season 2 ends on a huge ass cliffhanger, and I was like, I don't want to do that to myself, so I never watched season 2. But Clancy Brown is a preacher who's convinced he's actually speaking to God is next level creepy. All right, man, good times.
All right, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Good times. So that was a conversation with a buddy of mine from college that has chosen to identify himself only as Darth Ramious, and that's his prerogative. In no small way, he is very much a part of why I became the person that I am today, and I look forward to speaking with him about many different cinematic things in the very near future. So thanks for putting up with my crazy nerdy nonsense, and yeah, If you feel like it, go ahead and give me a follow over on Twitter. I'm at Blue of Shoe. Blue, the color OFSHOE. And yeah, take care, everybody.